this norm of our culture and our society that it's okay it's okay to look at other women and objectify women because you can't, it's not even possible to be so connected to one person that outside doesn't matter.
Our topic today is talking about, is it normal for him to look? This is Asia Schmidt. She is an incredible team member of ours. She's also a licensed clinical addiction specialist and a coach on our team, and works with I know a lot of you ladies have been talking with her quite often, as she's also our recovery advisor and is able to give a lot of great resources to you guys and give you some insights based on her personal experience and her expertise in what she does. So this is the first time that Asia's been able to go live with us. So we're very excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Is it normal for him to look? How many of us have had that kind of question? I think all of us who have gone through this type of scenario and process of addiction recovery, porn and sexual addiction recovery, I think we've all asked that question at one point and really needed to understand, like, what's normal? Like, what should I expect, right? Like, isn't it totally normal that guys are going to look? And if that's true, then should I, totally, is it me that's the problem if I have an issue with that or I have negative emotions coming up with that? And Asia, feel free to unmute because I think you're still muted. I don't know if we can hear you.
Okay, yep.
Perfect.
There we go.
And yeah, so it's just one of those topics that are really, really important that we talk about, because I think that there's a lot there to unpack, right? There's a lot to understand about what's normal, what's not normal, and all the impact of that, and even the way we ask that question. So that's what we're going to go into today. And yeah, I just want to welcome you. If you don't know who we are, I'm Katie.
I'm Rick.
And this is Rick. And we are the founders of Rewire for Success. And Rewire for Success is a coaching company that was designed to help couples overcome this recovery journey together. Because we went through an extremely hard process ourselves. Rick came into our relationship with a 25-year porn addiction. Neither of us realized that was the case. And as most people don't realize that they have an addiction to porn because they think it's just something everybody does. They don't know that it's that harmful or that big a deal or that it's going to have a big impact on their relationship. And, as women, a lot of times, like for myself, I was also kind of taught by society and groomed by my previous relationship to believe that. And so I thought that I needed to accept that was normal. And once again, the word normal. And we figured out very soon into our relationship that this was definitely a problem. It was definitely coming between our closeness. It was making it very quickly. I noticed that I wasn't being noticed anymore. I noticed that he lost interest in me, that he wasn't pursuing me. So that began kind of the journey of us figuring out, like, okay, like if this is something that we both agree, we had to have the conversation first. Like, I came to him and said, look, this isn't really something that I'm okay with anymore. I know I said I was at the beginning of this, but I see how it's impacting me. I see how it's impacting our relationship. And I just want to know, is that something that you need to have in your life? Or would you also agree that this is something that is hindering us from what we really want? And he basically said, if it's between you or porn, I choose you. And we thought, all right, perfect. That's done deal. But no, it wasn't. It was a long, hard journey for us. So that's why we're here. We're here to help couples have more education, more understanding, and a roadmap for what it actually takes to overcome this, because that's something we also had no idea about. And Asia, maybe you can speak to that for a second. Is that something where it's pretty common, where most people you've talked to and had interactions with, both professionally and, as a coach with our team, is it pretty normal that most people don't understand what it is that they're up against when it comes to porn addiction?
Oh, absolutely. And you touched on something that I hear a lot. You mentioned that you had went to Rick and said, hey, I know that I was okay with this when we first began, but now I'm not. And so many women come and they share that same story. Even I myself have been there, because we have been conditioned to believe that this is what men do. It's normal for them to do this. And so we kind of suppress how we feel, and we say, okay, I'm just going to go take that step back, because I was always taught that, hey, that's just them being a man. They can't change that.
Right.
And we don't know how it impacts us and the damage that it does, not only to the relationship, but also for both partners. Because what starts to happen is, as you mentioned, they become a bit desensitized and detached from the relationship. And then we're starting to struggle with feelings of inadequacy, low self-esteem. I've counseled many women who have gone through, you'd be surprised how many changes they've gone through just to try to compete with what they're looking at out there. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, seriously. That was also me big time, believing that that was what I had to do or was supposed to do, even in order to be enough for my partner. But yeah, it's really amazing to be on this side of it, to be able to speak to the experiences that we've had, and to have a team that's so wise, and the ability to really understand also what it takes for couples to make it through this, and to provide this kind of support for the couples that are in our group. And so today, maybe you could speak to, Rick, could you speak to the just increasing numbers of marriages that are being affected by this, and why? Like, is this something that most people know is affecting their relationship when it is? What do you think with that?
The answer to that would be a really simple no. I think where I'd really love to start and pick up is just off of the title of the live today, and is it normal to look? Because I know that for me, the conditioning for that started when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I can literally remember my stepdad saying those words, "It's okay to look, you just can't touch." And so from that moment forward, that's kind of the lens that I saw things through, in terms of what it meant to be faithful and what it meant to be unfaithful. And that as long as you're not going out and physically touching somebody, then it's okay to do whatever you want. Like, regardless of whether it's on a screen, in a magazine, in person, as long as it's just looking, then it doesn't matter.
Like, private thoughts don't count.
Right. Private thoughts don't count. So then you ask the question, well, how does that become a problem? How does that actually lead to situations where men do end up going out and oftentimes having in-person affairs, not only just infidelity through not porn, but actually a lot of men eventually go outside the relationship and cheat with a physical affair as well. And so we have to ask, well, why is that? What is it that's actually going on there?
Right.
And so when men or women, but when people are conditioned from a young age to believe that it's okay to look as long as they don't touch, and they're also conditioned that you shouldn't share those thoughts with people of what it is that you're actually experiencing, then the safety is all about, as long as it's a secret and I don't share, then it's okay.
And it's harmless.
And it's harmless, and there's no consequences that come with things, or at least no conceivable harms that come with hiding things, until you've been with somebody in a long-term relationship where those evidences actually begin to reveal themselves.
Yeah.
Which is exactly why, everybody here is watching today, is because their partners were in a position where they probably did believe for a very long time in their life that it was okay to look as long as they didn't touch. And so what does that do? It creates a very strong neural network in our brains of anticipating and looking forward to getting enjoyment of lusting after other people who aren't our partner.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, like with the brain and the way that our brain normalizes anything that we visualize. Like, they have shown scientifically that the brain doesn't differentiate between what's imagined and what actually happens, like what you do. So it's like practicing mental infidelity. It's practicing infidelity over and over and over and over and over. It's just like an athlete that practices making the shot, right? Or getting the goal. They're much higher, more likely statistically. They've shown statistically that they are more likely to achieve those goals and make better performance in their sport because they've done those visualizations. And it's because the brain doesn't differentiate. And so what we're doing essentially when we're allowing fantasy and allowing entertainment with looking at people outside the relationship is we're practicing unfaithfulness, which allows our brain to normalize it, right? So Asia, is that something that you've also learned in your practice when you've been working with people with addictions?
Yes, you talked about the visualization piece there and how it's continuously being rehearsed to the point where it's almost as if at some point it becomes the man's default, and as you said, because it can be private, no one knows about it. You can do that at any point in time, when you're stressed, when you're upset, you just check out and you start going to that mental rehearsing of practicing visualizing women that you've seen or pornography. And what happens in that process is that you become desensitized to your partner. And I think one of the things that doesn't come up a lot is that it teaches men to start thinking that there's something wrong with their partner, because they're saying that this is who I am, and this is what men do. There's something wrong with you if you have a problem with that. This is your self-esteem is low, or you're the one dealing with inadequacy. There's nothing wrong with me because this is normal. As you said, you're using the word normal again. This is normal. And so it also causes distance in the relationship as a result of that, because now they're conditioned to believe that there's a problem with you because this is normal for me.
So both partners are believing that she is the one who has to live up to millions of other people and compete with millions of other people in the world, which is not something any one human can do. Right. That's not realistic. It's not something any of us should feel like we need to do either. It's really when you really understand what that is asking of somebody, then it breaks it down in a way that hopefully helps people say, oh yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Like that isn't okay at all to be requiring that of any human being. But yeah, like back to that first point of like why increasing numbers of marriages are failing due to infidelity, it begins with the mind, and it begins with how normalized it has become through our world and the place that we live in right now, the culture that we live in. And it's not just in one part of the world, it's literally globally, that this is normalized as objectification of women in every sense, every place we go. TVs, movies, advertisements, social media, billboards. It's just like literally every single place you go, it is totally normalized to objectify women sexually. And so when men are now growing up in this era where it's not only just when they go out in public, but now it's every single moment that they're even at home using devices, it's like there's no way that can't affect men's mentality and begin to groom them for infidelity. And it's a heartbreaking reality that's where we're at. And
it sounds like a far stretch, but it really does come down to looking at the full context of what's actually going on in the brain there.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other things I wanted to make sure that we touched on here is that this isn't a her problem and it's not a him problem. It's a culture problem.
Right.
It's the way that not only the American culture, but a global culture has developed around using porn and the objectification of people in general. Like our audience specifically is obviously focusing on the women, but this is also pertaining to other groups of people too.
Agreed.
You see lots of other images of trans people, bi, gay, whatever, that when you see different advertisements that are targeted towards those people, they're also being objectified.
I agree. Yeah. And men too. Yeah. Just straight men. Yeah. It's all over the place just in general with objectifying people. Yeah, objects instead of humans. Yeah. So then, the question then becomes, well, okay, when we're kind of going to get back to we'll come back to the main question at the end here. I think you're probably grasping what our answer is, but let's think about and talk about, well, what does faithfulness actually look like then? Like, if that's not faithfulness, then what is faithfulness, and how can anyone be faithful? Because isn't it totally normal, right? Like, it's totally understandable why someone would look at somebody that's attractive. So what could you speak to, like, in our process, this has obviously been such an incredible journey to actually answer that question. And I think you do such a good job with teaching men about, like, what were they not taught about faithfulness? What did they miss out on understanding, and what it really takes to be a faithful person, faithful partner? I
mean, speaking from my own journey, basically when we got into a relationship, the way that I basically would have, if you would have asked me to define faithfulness, I would have said, well, it means that you're committed to one person and that you're not going to cheat on them with somebody else. And it never
standard.
Yeah, it's like sounds like a pretty typical answer, a normal answer, which we can get into the whole play of words on, do you actually want to be normal? Because normal is just what most people do. But yeah, so how did that transform? What actually changed for me, where I really understood on a deeper level what it meant to be faithful? And what really had to shift for me was understanding what it really felt like to be in a close and connected relationship, and to be able to understand what's the big picture goal of being in a monogamous relationship specifically. And the big picture goal of being in a monogamous relationship is that you create a bond that's so strong with this person that they're literally your ride or die, where it's like, we're doing life together. We're not just living together. We're not just like roommates where it's like, I go to work, you go to work, we come home, we kind of share different things that we purchase together and go out and have fun together. It's literally the feeling of closeness and connection, where it's like, you're my person, we're doing life together. Like, what do you want to go do? What is it that we want to create in our life? What do we want to achieve? What are the goals that we want to set together that we're going to accomplish? And that was nothing that I ever had any sort of understanding about prior to getting into a relationship with Katie. I had no idea what it actually meant to be emotionally intimate with somebody and to be able to feel that level of closeness and connection with somebody.
I think for me, with just to add what you're saying, it's also a sense of security and safety. Like, there's never a thought, if you're in a truly monogamous relationship, that you have to worry about that person betraying you, because of course they're not going to betray you. You just feel secure and safe. And that's really what secure attachment feels like, is when you know that your best interests are always first in your partner's mind and theirs in yours. And there is no need to have anxiety or worry over your partner betraying you or going outside the relationship, because you exclusively give each other that emotional and sexual energy, right? You're not directing that anywhere else. And that creates a bond that is so unique and exclusive that it really, I don't believe it's even possible to have outside of true monogamy.
Yeah, I don't see how it would ever be possible. And just to add to that point, if those are types of thoughts that you do currently have, it doesn't mean that you're not with the right person. When Katie and I were going through our journey together, I had thoughts multiple times throughout our process about, she wasn't good enough. Well, maybe if I broke up with her, I found somebody without kids, and I were to have kids on my own with somebody else, or if I found somebody else who had this different physical appearance, then maybe that would make me more drawn to them, XYZ, right? My brain was looking for all these reasons, basically, for why she wasn't good enough, and that maybe it was something that was wrong with her, and that maybe if I was with somebody else, that it wouldn't feel like it was a challenge. And these are just normal things that brains do.
So just to clarify, you're saying that because it was a challenge with your thoughts to be faithful, you thought, well, maybe it's Katie.
Right.
And that was really the addiction speaking, trying to find justifications for, right, and, safety for you to not feel like there was a problem with you, and protecting the addiction as well.
Right. Yeah. There's so many different types of automatic thoughts that come up in the recovery process that it's really important that you just are able to actually express those to somebody that is going to be able to help you actually work through them and understand what's going on, because it doesn't mean that any of those things are actually true. It's just that that is how your brain has currently been conditioned to respond when you're actually, like, if an addict was stripped away of their drug, then they're going to have all the thoughts in the world of why it's okay to go and steal from their family member and take it out of their purse. Maybe they're planning to repay them, or maybe they just don't think it's a big deal because they would understand that if you really needed the money to go get this fixed because otherwise you felt like you were going to die, that they would forgive you, right?
Lots of justifications.
Right,
Yeah.
a lot of justifications and rationalizing that goes on with when you are kind of stripped away of your vice and what your brain will do to try and get that back.
So Asia, can you speak to any experience with that, with either that or with helping, people really understand like what faithfulness looks like, or any of that?
Yeah, I mean, Rick, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said that in order to have faithfulness in that truly monogamous relationship, both parties have to be able to have that secure attachment with each other and be able to feel safe with each other. But before you can even get there, you kind of got to pull that layer back for the men as well as, I mean, both parties, but especially for the men to even believe that it's possible to have that. See, because we have normalized looking at women and looking at pornography and objectifying women, you have to believe that it's actually possible that you can get to a place where this person is the only person for me. This person is, as you said, Katie, my partner, the one, I like to call it, Bonnie and Clyde, ride or die, like we are connected together. And that belief has to counteract the belief that this other norm is what I have to adapt to and be a part of, this norm of our culture and our society, that it's okay to look at other women and objectify women, because you can't, it's not even possible to be so connected to one person that outside doesn't matter, So when we can build that belief there, then we start to move into looking at how we can help couples build that secure attachment with each other. And I think you both hit the nail on the head again with another point that you made about if you're not, feeling that, it doesn't mean that you married the wrong partner, because that's a big issue in our culture as well. We call it the one, like, oh, I didn't marry the one, but the one kind of has this connotation of that this person is perfect, and flawless. And so you don't ever get to that point of learning what it means to do life together, which actually and ultimately leads to building that secure attachment with one another, being able to be vulnerable and transparent and go through ups and downs and challenges. That's how you get to that place of building that secure attachment, So both of those things have to be in place. But the first piece is starting with definitely for the man to even believe that it's possible that I can have a truly monogamous relationship, with my partner, to where we are so secure with one another that nothing outside of that even phases us. And I think one of the other pieces that comes up that we help people with too is when you look at the definition of faithfulness, one of the best things that I've heard said is that faithfulness is whatever your partner perceives as infidelity, So if your partner comes to you and say, hey, this is bothering me, the fact that you're looking at other women, and you may not think it's a big deal, then guess what? That's unfaithfulness, because you two are in covenant together, you're one together. So the very fact that they're coming to you and saying this bothers me, then ultimately that alone is enough to be able to say, okay, I need to change something here. It doesn't matter what society thinks. I'm not married to society, or I'm not in a relationship with society. I'm in a relationship with my partner, and if it affects her, then that's enough for me to start making those changes.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. Very well said. All of that was so well said.
Definitely. And as Asia's mentioning, kind of bringing it back to the honesty and transparency, really needing that as a core foundation for building a secure relationship. A lot of the challenges that we see men struggling with is that they also don't believe that their partner could ever forgive them for the different things that they've done, and that if they were to tell their partner the full truth of the extent of their addiction, that there's no way that they would be considered lovable. And that is actually the number one sign to show you that you yourself individually are not capable of being in a secure relationship, if that's a belief that continues to stay in place where you're not able to be fully honest and transparent with your partner. Because that belief, in order for you to be accepted, if you want to have a secure relationship, you need to be fully accepted for the person that you are, because that is going to have an immense amount of gratitude for the fact that the person that you choose to do life with actually chooses to do life with you based on having all the information that she needs. And that is what men really need to come to a point of being able to understand for themselves, so that they're actually doing the recovery for themselves.
Right.
So that it's not that they're just trying to be good enough for their partner so that their partner doesn't leave, but it's really about, what is it that I want for myself? And so we really have to learn, what is it that I need to do? What are some of the different limiting beliefs and challenges that I need to overcome, where I can understand what it is that I'm really deserving in life in terms of the relationship that I want to have, that I want to get to experience. And, you know, if that fear were true of my partner would leave me if she did know everything about me and she knew the full truth, then is that the right partner for me? Is that how I want to live the rest of my life? And those are really difficult questions that you have to ask yourself, but they need to be asked. Mm-hmm. If you really want to enjoy life, if you don't want to be constantly living in fear in your relationship, and you want to get to have that secure bond where the person that you choose to do life with does fully accept you, even despite the different obstacles that you're going to have to overcome together in order to create the security in the relationship, then that is what makes this worth doing.
Right. It's so well said, because it's like you can't have that secure attachment and close emotional bond when you aren't fully known and you're hiding things. You feel like you wouldn't be accepted if you actually truly were to tell her the truth. Like, there is no way you can create that incredible, close, emotionally bonded connection with her when there's no transparency and no honesty. And also, just to speak to something that Asia said, I loved what you mentioned about how we kind of live in a culture where we talk about like the one, as if there's only one person out there that could possibly be the right person for you. And it's not about finding in that only one person. It is about creating the relationship, because you find someone who is willing to put in that reciprocal effort to build that incredible relationship where you have your person. And it's not because you happen to get so lucky to find the one. It's because you both work hard to create what you want in your relationship with each other.
Yes, it's essentially going from the mindset of the one to becoming the one,
right?
You know, and as you talked about, like, because we're doing the work together. Yes, I love the way you put that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so much there. We could go on and on. I'm sure there's lots of topics to go off for just with that. But so let's come back to that third bullet point then, about whether it's normal or not for men to look at other attractive women. And again, this goes both ways, right? Like, it's not just about the men, but because of the work we do and the specific audience we work mostly with, which is couples who are going through this where the man is the addict and the woman is the betrayed partner. That's why we're phrasing it this way. And, you know, the answer to that is absolutely, it's normal. It's normal. Unfortunately, it's very normal. You know, through our entire conversation, you can hear how much we talk about how normalized that is. But again, like Rick said earlier, is that the right question? Is that what we really want to know? Is that what we want our standard to be? Is like, is this normal? Or do we want to ask a different question? Right.
Because it's normal to get divorced too. Right. Mm-hmm. It's a very normal thing. It's pretty normal to be cheated on. There's a ton of things that happen way too often in society that are considered normal because it happens to the majority of people. But is that something that you actually want?
Yeah. And I think another way to ask the question is, okay, well, is the person who is telling me, like, let's say that we ask the question, is it normal? And the person's like, yeah. Well, then the next question becomes, is that person someone you would want to model your life after? Do you want the life that they have? because most of those people who are normalizing this likely, I have to use that word because I can't use absolutes, but likely doesn't have an incredible, thriving, close, successful relationship with their partner that's going to last a lifetime. So if that's actually what you want, then the real question should be, what normal do I want to create? What's going to give me the outcome that I actually want from my relationship and my life with my partner? And create a new normal. Like that's what we get to do. That's actually what we all get to do in every part of our life, is we get to decide, what do I want to be normal?
Yeah.
And sorry, I'll just add one more part to that. Like if you think about what that takes, it means you're surrounding yourself with exactly what you want your brain to normalize. So if you want your brain to normalize unfaithfulness and porn and that it's okay to look at other women, then surround yourself with all the friends that do the same thing, and make sure you're looking at lots of porn and lots of other women on social media, because that will normalize that for your brain. If you want the opposite of that, you want monogamy, true monogamy, you want connection to your partner, you want to feel attraction, organic attraction for your partner again, then normalize not having any of that in your world, because it will change everything.
Yeah, I think kind of as we mentioned earlier about the acceptance of porn being a cultural thing, normal is also based on cultures as well, and cultures and subcultures, depending on what your different subcultures are. Different religions are going to have different things that are more normal to them. And so, like Katie's talking about, you really want to find a community of people that are normalizing things that are actually going to help you in your recovery journey. So not only normalizing what it means to be faithful in the context of a monogamous relationship, but what is the normal in terms of how we approach our conversations with each other? What's the normal that we're setting for how we're going to treat our partner about the addiction that they do have? And for the addict, what's the normal that we want to set for how we're going to respond to our partner? What's the normal that we're going to set for ourselves for how we evaluate things? And we really take a look at what the different meanings are that we're giving to our interactions with our partners. Because I know that there's so many times that it was normal for me to want to stand up and be defensive and reactive and, get upset with Katie because of different things that she would say. But that's not actually, like, I didn't want to go out and surround myself with a bunch of other guys who were with me and like in my corner and normalizing that it's,
cheering you
my
on,
right. Stand up to her, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and vice versa.
Don't break down, like, don't let her control you or dominate you or whatever.
Right. And vice versa. Like what was normal in a lot of groups, which I got out of because it was normalizing that you would shame the men for their addiction. And basically every single post was, oh, you should leave him. Right? Like, oh, if he really loved you, he wouldn't do this. And he's making it's just a decision. He's just choosing to do this. You should totally leave. And, that is understandable because there's a lot of pain. There's so much real damage that's done with betrayal trauma. So I'm not trying to minimize that experience, but exactly what you're saying though, what do we want to feel for normal for how we get through this together, right? Do we want to normalize that we just give up and leave? Or do we want to normalize that, no, there is hope for this relationship if the man is also wanting to change this and they're willing to do the work and willing to get the right help? And the woman, normalizing that it's okay to hold compassion for his journey and her pain, that you can have both of those at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, one of the things that I notice when couples come to us is that for the most part, sadly, they are at their breaking point. But one of the things that I say is that, do you realize that you're at a position where you can create your new normal now? Part of the reason why you're at this breaking point is because you've probably been, doing things everyone else's way. And most times from an unconscious level, you're not even aware that you're following that you were following the patterns of mom or dad or your brother who cheated on his wife multiple times, and it's just that became your norm. It's like became your default without you even having the opportunity to explore what it could be for you. And so the beauty in this is that now you get to say, you know what, we've come to this place where where we've hit our breaking point, but it's also this place of exploration and discovery and being able to create a new foundation based upon my partner and and what that looks like. So that's one of the things that we really try to drive home, because it can feel discouraging, when you feel like you're at your breaking point and you feel like, man, I don't really see any way out. But when we look at it from this perspective of, this led us to this point of now being able to create a new identity in our relationship and in our marriage, it becomes exciting. And so you even mentioned in talking about the fact that, hey, we don't want to do normal, we don't want to do average. So now we're at this place of, that's great. It's great that you're no longer in this position of wanting to technically be average. We want to identify and define what is going to be great and purposeful for our relationship.
Absolutely. What you just said is basically essentially that what I've read before, I think it's in Tony Robbins' book, but that pain is the greatest catalyst for change.
Yes.
That don't waste it, he says. Don't you dare waste pain, because it is the greatest catalyst for change. And that's so powerful when you can see it that way and frame it that way. So yeah, it is hard to be at your breaking point, and it is a powerful place to be.
100%.
Definitely.
Yes.
And we're super grateful that those of you watching this and listening to this have found us and that you've found our community, because really what we're doing is we're trying to do recovery different. We're trying to create a new normal set of expectations for people who are going through this difficult journey together. And it's exactly why Katie and I, when we got through our process, we knew other couples are needing help, because when we looked at the support that other women were getting out there, we're like,
and men
and men, like, this is not cutting it. This is not going to work. We have something that is extremely important that we need to get out there and offer people, and we need to help create a solution that helps create a new normal that's actually going to allow people to be in a place where they have much higher chances of success. And so that's why we created the program that we did, Relationship Rebuild, and now we've got an amazing team with people like Asia Schmidt and other licensed therapists who are on our team, who are helping us to really kind of rewrite the script of what recovery looks like.
Yes.
And so if that's something that you're out there, you've kind of looked at some different options and you're really trying to figure out for yourself what are some different communities that I'm actually considering would be a good culture fit, where they're actually respecting both the man's side of the journey and the woman's side of the journey. We really hope that you'll consider talking with our team, sharing a little bit more about your journey, and seeing what kind of insights or resources that you can get from them so that they can help you with wherever it is that you're currently at in the process.
Yeah. You can just reach out to Tate or Asia, so Tate Pierce or Asia Schmidt in our group here, and send them a quick message and share your story if you haven't yet. And they'd be happy to give you some resources and even get on a quick phone call with you for 30 minutes or so, and totally free. Just hear more about what you're going through and see if maybe the program could be a really good next step for you. So yeah, take that step. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it to not feel alone in this journey. One more shameless plug is that we have a women and men support group also on Friday evenings that we literally just launched a few weeks ago, and it is phenomenal. Incredible support, incredible women and men. You can be in these groups where you're not just hearing all of the failures and all of the pain. There is pain, right? It's obviously a hard topic, but there's also hope. And there's a lot of equipping and a lot of really good insights being given. And that's led by, right now, it's myself and Asia on Fridays. And we have another coach that just joined our team that will be also helping host on Fridays. And then we have Andy Lawson, another therapist on our team, and Rick that do also on Fridays with the men. So the women's group's at 7 o'clock Eastern time, and the men's group is at 8:15 Eastern time. If you want to get signed up for those groups, just go to our website, www.rewireforsuccess, which is with the number 4, www.rewireforsuccess.life, L-I-F-E, not .com. And you can click on support groups at the top and be able to sign up there. All right. Thank you so much, Asia, for joining us today. It was such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
So much good insights that you provided. And I hope that this was really helpful for everybody listening and watching. And we will see you next week. Same time, same channel.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.